They said I wasn't their real daughter and left me to die in that hospital bed. But what they didn't know was I'd already planned my final move. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, this story might hit close to home. Stick around, because by the end you'll see how one letter changed everything. And if this resonates with you, consider subscribing. You're not alone in this. My name is Harper. I'm 28 years old and I work as a pediatric physical therapist in a suburb just outside Denver, Colorado. I help kids learn to walk again after accidents, after surgeries, after the kind of trauma that leaves scars you can't always see. It's ironic, really. I spent my career teaching children how to stand on their own 2 feet, when I'd spent my entire life struggling to do the same thing in my own family. I was adopted when I was 6 months old. My parents, Robert and Sharon Morrison, brought me home to their brick colonial in Highlands Ranch with what I'm sure they believed were the best intentions. They already had one daughter, Madison, who was 3 at the time. I don't know why they decided to adopt. They never really talked about it. And honestly, I stopped asking a long time ago. I don't have many memories from early childhood that feel warm. I have snapshots, moments frozen in time that, when I look back now, tell a story I didn't want to see then. I was 8 years old when I had my first real memory of being forgotten. It was my birthday, October 14th. I woke up early, excited, wearing the purple dress I'd picked out the week before. I remember sitting at the kitchen table waiting. My mom made pancakes, but she didn't put a candle in them. My dad read the newspaper. Madison was texting on her new phone, a gift she'd gotten for her 11th birthday just 2 months earlier. No one said happy birthday. Said happy. I thought maybe they were planning a surprise. I waited all day. After school, I ran to the car, expecting balloons or a trip to my favourite ice cream place. Instead, my mum picked me up 20 minutes late because she'd been at Madison's soccer practice. She was on the phone the whole drive home, talking to another parent about some tournament in Boulder. That night at dinner, I finally said it. "Mum, it's my birthday." She looked up, startled, like I'd just reminded her we had a dog she'd forgotten to feed. "Oh, sweetie, I'm so sorry. This week has been so crazy with Madison's schedule. We'll do something this weekend, okay?" We didn't. But 2 weeks later, when Madison turned 11, we had a party. 20 kids. A rented bounce house. A custom cake from the bakery on Main Street with her name in pink frosting. I sat in the corner of the backyard, eating a slice of cake no one had offered me, watching my parents laugh and take pictures. That was the first time I realized I was different, not special different, just separate. When I was 12, I got the lead role in the school play, Annie. I practiced my lines every night for 6 weeks. I was so excited I could barely sleep the week of the performance. I gave my parents the tickets a month in advance. I reminded them every single day. The night of the show, I stood backstage in my red dress and curly wig, peeking through the curtain. I scanned the audience for their faces. I saw empty seats in the row where they were supposed to be sitting. They didn't come. When I got home that night, my teacher had given me a ride. I found them in the living room watching TV. Madison had a soccer practice that evening. Apparently that took priority. My mum said, "I'm sure you were wonderful, honey," without looking away from the screen. I went upstairs and cried into my pillow so no one would hear. By the time I was 16, I'd stopped expecting anything. I learned to be quiet, to take up less space, to not ask for things. I got straight A's, not because anyone celebrated them, but because it was the only thing I could control. I won a full-ride academic scholarship to the University of Colorado. It was the biggest achievement of my life. I printed out the acceptance letter and the scholarship notification. I walked downstairs to the dining room where my parents were helping Madison fill out applications for study abroad programs in Europe. I stood there, holding the papers, waiting for someone to notice me. Finally, my dad looked up. "What is it, Harper?" I handed him the papers. He skimmed them. "That's great. Good job." That was it. He handed them back and returned to Madison's applications. My mum didn't even look up. That night, I sat alone in my bedroom, holding that acceptance letter, listening to the sounds of laughter coming from downstairs. They were looking at photo albums, pictures from Madison's senior trip to Cabo, her volleyball championships, her junior prom. I realised then that there were no albums with my pictures, no framed photos of me on the mantel. It was like I was a guest in their house, not a daughter. But the moment that truly broke me happened 2 years ago, on Thanksgiving. I was running late. There'd been an accident on I-25, and traffic was crawling. I called my mum to let her know I'd be about 15 minutes late. She said it was fine, that they'd wait for me. When I pulled up to the house, I could see everyone through the big bay window in the dining room. They were already seated, already eating. I stood there for a moment, adjusting the pie I'd brought, homemade pumpkin, their favourite, and I was about to walk up the driveway when I heard my dad's voice through the window that was cracked open to let out the heat from the kitchen. "You know, sometimes I forget we even have another daughter. It's like she's just there." The whole table laughed. Madison, my mum, even my Aunt Linda, who was visiting from Arizona. They laughed like it was the most natural observation in the world. I stood there in the driveway, holding that pie, and I felt something inside me go very still. Not angry, not sad, just still. I walked back to my car. I set the pie on the passenger seat, and I drove back to my apartment in silence. I didn't hear from anyone for 3 days. When my mum finally texted, it was a single line. "You missed Thanksgiving? Everything okay?" I replied, "Traffic was bad. Sorry." She never asked why I didn't come in. She never noticed the pie I'd baked. She never noticed me. Last Christmas, I got the final confirmation I needed. My dad sent me a text on December 20th. "We're keeping it small this year, just immediate family." Immediate family. I read that text over and over again. After 28 years, I still wasn't immediate family. I didn't respond. I spent Christmas alone in my apartment, watching old movies and eating Chinese takeout. And somewhere in the quiet of that night, I made a decision. I called my attorney the week after New Year's. Her name was Lisa Hartman, and she'd helped me with the paperwork when I bought my condo 2 years earlier. I told her I wanted to update my will. She asked if everything was okay. I told her I just wanted to be prepared. I didn't know then how soon I'd need to be. It was a Friday evening in March, the kind of Colorado evening where the sky turns orange and pink and the mountains look like they're glowing. I was driving home from a volunteer shift at the Children's Hospital, feeling good, feeling purposeful. I took I-25 south toward Highlands Ranch, my music playing, my window cracked just enough to let in the cool air. I didn't see the truck until it was too late. Later, they told me the driver had fallen asleep at the wheel. His semi crossed 3 lanes and hit me head-on near Castle Rock. They said I was lucky to be alive. They said most people don't survive impacts like that. I don't remember the crash itself. I remember headlights. I remember the sound of metal crunching, glass shattering. And then I remember waking up, just for a moment, in a hospital bed, with lights too bright and voices too loud and pain everywhere. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak, but I could hear. I heard a doctor's voice, calm and professional. Mr. and Mrs. Morrison, your daughter is in critical condition. She has a traumatic brain injury, multiple fractures, and internal bleeding. We need your consent to perform emergency surgery. Without it, she may not survive the next few hours. There was a pause, and then my mother's voice, tired and confused. Which daughter? We have two. Harper Morrison, age 28. Another pause. I heard my mother sigh. It was the kind of sigh you make when someone reminds you of an errand you forgot to run. Oh, Harper. I heard footsteps, murmured voices. I tried to open my eyes, to move my hand, to do anything to show them I was awake, but my body wouldn't respond. I was trapped inside myself, listening. 45 minutes later, they arrived. I didn't see them, but I heard them in the hallway outside my room. The nurses had pulled a curtain, but the walls were thin. I could hear everything. My mother spoke first, her voice low. She's not really our daughter, you know. She's adopted. My father's voice came next. We should probably think this through. The surgery is expensive and, well, she doesn't have a family of her own to take care of her after. No husband, no kids. It's just us. Madison, my sister. I heard her voice too. Mum's right. We have our own kids to think about. College funds, retirement. I mean, if she's not going to have a good quality of life after this. A nurse, I found out later her name was Jessica, tried to intervene. I understand this is overwhelming, but Harper needs immediate surgical intervention. Every minute counts. My father's voice again, firmer this time. Can you give us a moment? They talked for 10 more minutes. I heard words like burden and realistic and for the best. And then I heard the worst sound I've ever heard in my life, the scratch of a pen on paper. My father had signed a DNR. Do not resuscitate. If my heart stopped, they wouldn't try to bring me back. My mother said, her voice quiet, almost gentle. She lived her life. This might be for the best. No one should suffer like this. And then they left. I heard their footsteps fade down the hallway. I heard Madison on her phone, already calling her husband to tell him they could still make their dinner reservation. I lay there, unable to move, unable to scream, unable to do anything but listen to the steady beep of the heart monitor and wonder if this was how my story ended, not with love, not with anyone fighting for me, but with a signature and a sigh of relief. But something happened that night that my family didn't plan for. Dr. Alan Chen had been on shift for 16 hours. He was exhausted running on coffee and adrenaline, but when he saw my chart, when he saw that DNR signed barely an hour after I'd arrived, something didn't sit right with him. He pulled Nurse Jessica aside. What happened here? She told him everything. The conversation in the hallway, the cold, clinical way my family had discussed my life like it was a financial investment gone bad. The way they'd left without even coming into my room to say goodbye. Dr. Chen looked at my chart again. He looked at my vitals, and then he made a decision that would change everything. He cancelled the DNR. He told the surgical team to prep the OR. He called in a neurologist and a trauma surgeon, and he spent the next 6 hours fighting to save my life, not because he had to, but because he believed I deserved to live. I didn't know any of this at the time. I didn't wake up until 48 hours later. When I opened my eyes, the first thing I saw was fluorescent lights. The second thing I saw was Nurse Jessica's face, kind and concerned, leaning over me. "Welcome back," she said softly. "You gave us quite a scare." I tried to speak, but my throat was raw from the intubation. She brought me water, helped me take tiny sips. And then I asked the question I wasn't sure I wanted the answer to. "Where's my family?" Jessica's face changed. She glanced at the door, then back at me. Harper, there's something you need to know. She told me everything. The conversation she'd overheard. The DNR my father had signed. The way they'd walked out without looking back. She told me that no one had called. No one had visited. As far as my family knew, I was either dead or still unconscious in the ICU. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, and I felt something I hadn't felt in a very long time. Clarity. For 28 years, I'd been trying to earn a place at their table. I'd been trying to prove I was worth loving, worth keeping, worth remembering. And in the moment when it mattered most, when I was dying, they'd proven exactly what I'd always feared. I wasn't, but I was alive. Against their wishes, I was alive, and I wasn't going to waste my second chance trying to win their love anymore. I asked Jessica if she could bring me my phone and a laptop. She hesitated, worried I needed rest, but I insisted. I had work to do. The first call I made was to Lisa Hartman. Harper? Her voice was surprised, concerned. I heard you were in an accident. Are you okay? I need you to come to the hospital, I said, my voice still weak but steady. And I need you to bring every legal document related to my estate. There are some things I need to change, immediately. Lisa arrived 3 hours later. She pulled a chair up to my hospital bed and opened her briefcase. What's going on? She asked. I told her everything, the accident, the DNR, my family's conversation, the fact that they thought I was either dead or incapacitated, and that they were probably already planning how to divide up whatever I'd left behind. Lisa's face went very still as she listened. When I finished, she set down her pen and looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Not pity, but something close to rage. Harper, I need to tell you something, and I should have told you years ago. She pulled out a file I'd never seen before. Inside was a stack of documents, letters, bank statements. When you turned 18, I was contacted by the executor of your grandmother's estate, your father's mother. She'd passed away 2 years earlier, and she'd left a trust fund in your name, $1.2 million. I stared at her. What? Your parents were named as the trustees until you turned 18. At that point, you were supposed to take full control, but they never told you. They kept managing the trust, and they've been using portions of it for other purposes. She spread the documents across my bed. Bank statements showing transfers, property records, a deed to a house purchased in Madison's name, paid for with money from my trust. They've been stealing from me, my voice came out as a whisper. Legally, it's complicated because they were the trustees. But ethically, yes. And there's more. She pulled out a letter, yellowed with age, written in handwriting I didn't recognize. Your grandmother wrote this before she died. It was supposed to be given to you when you turned 18. It was in the estate files. I don't think your parents ever intended for you to see it. My hands shook as I unfolded the letter. My dearest Harper, if you're reading this, I'm gone, but I need you to know something important. You were the light of my life. Your parents may have their own struggles with showing love, but please know that I saw you. I saw your kindness, your intelligence, your beautiful heart. This money is for you, not for them. Not for anyone else. It's for you to build the life you choose, not the life they expect you to live. You deserve to be seen. You deserve to be cherished. And if the people around you can't do that, then use this money to find your own path. I love you, sweetheart. I always did. Grandma Ruth. I read the letter 3 times before I could speak. They kept this from me. Yes. They used my money to buy Madison a house. Yes. And they were going to let me die. Lisa reached across and took my hand. Harper, I can't tell you what to do, but I can tell you this. You have options. legal options. And if you want to take back control of your life, all of it, I will help you. I looked down at the letter in my hands. I looked at the bank statements. I looked at the evidence of a lifetime of being overlooked, dismissed, and financially exploited. And then I looked at Lisa. I want to do more than take back control, I said. I want to make sure they understand exactly what they threw away when they signed that DNR. Lisa leaned back in her chair, and for the first time since I'd met her, she smiled. Okay, let's get to work. Over the next week, while my family assumed I was either dead or still comatose in the ICU, Lisa and I built a plan. First, we transferred the entire trust into a new account, one my parents couldn't access, couldn't touch, couldn't even see. Every penny of that $1.2 million was now solely in my name. Second, we drafted a new will. Everything I owned, the trust, my condo, my savings, my retirement accounts, would go to a scholarship fund for foster children pursuing careers in healthcare. Not a cent would go to my family. Third, and most importantly, we prepared the letter. Lisa asked me if I wanted to write it myself or dictate it to her. I told her I needed to write it. I needed them to read my words in my handwriting and know that every single sentence came from me. It took me 2 days. I wrote and rewrote, crossed out and started over. I wasn't looking for the perfect words. I was looking for the true ones. When I finished, Lisa read it. She didn't say anything for a long moment. Then she looked up at me, her eyes shining. This is powerful, Harper. Are you sure you want to do this? I've never been more sure of anything in my life. She nodded. Okay, then here's what we're going to do. She explained the plan. My family, assuming I was gone or unable to manage my affairs, would inevitably contact her office to discuss my estate. When they did, she would invite them to her office for a formal reading of my will. And that's when they'd receive the letter. What about you? Lisa asked. Do you want to be there? I thought about it. Part of me wanted to see their faces. Part of me wanted to watch them realize what they'd lost. But another part of me, the part that had spent 28 years trying to make them see me, knew that being there would mean I still needed something from them. Validation, acknowledgement, proof that I mattered. And I didn't need that anymore. No, I said, I don't need to be there. Let them read the letter. Let them sit with it. And then, I'm done. Lisa nodded slowly. Where will you go? I don't know yet, I admitted. Somewhere they won't look for me. Somewhere I can start over. In the end, I chose Boulder. It was only an hour away from Denver, but it felt like a different world. The mountains were closer. The air felt cleaner. And most importantly, nobody knew me there. I found a small apartment near the university, a second-floor walk-up with big windows and a view of the Flatirons. I signed the lease using my middle name, Grace, just in case. I transferred to a different hospital system. I changed my phone number. I wasn't hiding exactly. I was just finally choosing myself. Dr. Chen came to see me the day before I was discharged. He pulled up a chair and sat down, looking tired but kind. I wanted to check in, he said. Make sure you're doing okay, not just physically. You saved my life, I said. You went against that DNR. Why? He was quiet for a moment. I've been a doctor for 20 years, he said finally. And I've learned that sometimes the people who are supposed to love us the most are the ones who hurt us the deepest. That DNR, it wasn't a medical decision, It was a choice that had nothing to do with your chances of survival and everything to do with their convenience. He looked me straight in the eye. You deserve to live, Harper. You deserved someone fighting for you, and I'm sorry it had to be a stranger instead of your family." I felt tears start to well up, but I blinked them back. "Thank you," I whispered. "Thank you for seeing me when they didn't." He squeezed my hand. "You take care of yourself, and if you ever need anything, a reference, a recommendation, just someone to talk to, you call me." He handed me his card with his personal number written on the back. After he left, I sat there holding that card, thinking about how strange it was that the people who'd shown me the most love in my darkest moment were complete strangers, a doctor who owed me nothing, a nurse who could have stayed silent, a lawyer who could have simply done her job and moved on. They chose to care when my own family chose not to, and that told me everything I needed to know. On my last day in the hospital, Nurse Jessica came to say goodbye. She brought me a small potted succulent. "Because you're a survivor," she said with a smile. But before she left, she handed me something else, a USB drive. "What's this?" I asked. "Hospital security footage," she said quietly, "and audio from the hallway that night. I made a copy before I left my shift. I probably shouldn't have, but—" She paused. "I thought you might need it someday, if they ever try to say it didn't happen the way you remember." I took the drive, my hands trembling. "Thank you." "You don't have to thank me," she said. "I just hope you find peace, real peace, the kind that doesn't depend on them ever understanding what they did." After she left, I sat alone in that hospital room for the last time. I looked around at the machines that had kept me alive, the bed where I'd spent 3 weeks recovering, the window where I'd watched the sun rise and set while my family never once came to visit. And I made myself a promise. I would never again beg for a place in someone's life. I would never again shrink myself to fit into spaces that weren't meant for me. I would never again mistake their inability to love me for my own unworthiness. I was done being Harper Morrison, the adopted daughter who was never quite enough. It was time to be Harper Morrison, the woman who chose herself. 3 days after I was discharged, I moved into my new apartment in Boulder. Lisa helped me hire movers who packed up my condo in Denver in one afternoon. I didn't take much, just clothes, books, a few pieces of furniture I'd bought myself. I left behind anything that reminded me of them. My new place was small but bright. I spent my first evening there sitting on the floor, eating pizza straight from the box, watching the sun set behind the mountains. For the first time in my life, I felt completely, perfectly alone. And it didn't feel lonely at all. It felt like freedom. I'd been living in Boulder for exactly 1 week when Lisa called. "They reached out," she said, her voice carefully neutral. "Your father called my office this morning. He wants to discuss your estate." I was sitting on my small balcony, drinking coffee and watching joggers pass by on the trail below. The morning air was cool and clean, and for a moment I didn't say anything. I just let the information settle. "What did he say?" I asked finally. He was very formal, very businesslike. He said, and I quote, "We need to handle Harper's affairs. We're her only family." He asked if we could meet tomorrow, Tuesday morning at 10. Did he ask if I was alive? There was a pause. No, Harper, he didn't. I closed my eyes and let out a long breath. Even now, even after everything, some part of me had hoped that maybe they'd called the hospital to check on me, hoped that maybe they'd felt some sliver of remorse or worry or love, but they hadn't. They'd just waited for the call telling them I was gone so they could start dividing up what was left. "Okay," I said, "let's do it." "Are you absolutely sure?" Lisa asked. "Once we do this, there's no going back." "I'm sure." "Do you want to be there?" I can set up a video call, you can watch from another room, or—" "No," I interrupted. "I don't need to see them. I just need them to know." Lisa was quiet for a moment. "All right, I'll handle everything. I'll record the meeting. Colorado is a one-party consent state, so that's legal. I'll send you the recording afterward if you want it." "I don't think I'll want it," I said, "but thank you." After we hung up, I sat there for a long time, watching the mountains turn gold in the morning light. I thought about what would happen tomorrow. I thought about my father walking into that office, probably wearing his best suit, probably already planning how to invest the money. I thought about my mother, who would play the grieving parent, who would dab at her eyes with a tissue she didn't need. I thought about Madison, who would pretend to be sad while calculating how much of the trust fund she could claim. And I thought about the letter waiting for them in Lisa's office. The letter that would change everything. That night I barely slept. Not because I was nervous, but because I felt something I hadn't felt in years: anticipation. For so long, I'd been the one waiting to be noticed, waiting to be chosen, waiting to matter. But tomorrow, they would be the ones waiting to hear my words, waiting to understand what they'd lost, and for once, I wouldn't be there to see their reaction. Because I didn't need to anymore. Tuesday morning arrived cold and grey. I woke up at 7, made coffee, and tried to distract myself with work emails and physical therapy exercises. Lisa had told me the meeting was at 10. By 9:30, I couldn't sit still anymore. I went for a walk around my neighborhood, my phone clutched in my hand. I didn't know if Lisa would call right away or if she'd wait. I didn't know what to expect. At 10:47, my phone rang. "It's done," Lisa said. Her voice sounded strange, tight and controlled, like she was holding back emotion. "Tell me everything," I said. She took a breath. "They arrived at 10 on the dot, all 3 of them. Your father wore a navy suit. Your mother wore black, like she was already in mourning. Madison wore something expensive. I could tell by the handbag. Despite everything, I smiled. That sounded exactly like them." "They sat down in my conference room," Lisa continued. "Very composed, very proper. Your father started with condolences, told me how sorry they were about the tragic loss of their daughter. Your mother cried a little. Madison held her hand. Of course she did. I let them talk for a few minutes. Then I said I had something you'd left for them. I placed the envelope on the table. I could picture it perfectly. The white envelope with my handwriting, the red wax seal I'd pressed myself, the words written across the front, to the family I never had. Your mother picked it up first, Lisa said. She looked at the handwriting and her face went pale. She said, "This is Harper's writing." Your father took it from her. He broke the seal and pulled out the letter. Lisa paused. I could hear papers rustling in the background. I had set up a recording device, audio only, as I mentioned. I'm going to read you some of what happened, if that's okay. Please. Lisa's voice shifted, becoming more formal, like she was reading from a transcript. Your father read the letter out loud. I'm going to paraphrase some parts, but these are the key moments. She cleared her throat and began. He started reading. If you're reading this, it means you came here to claim my estate. You came here because you think I'm gone. Your mother interrupted him. She said, "What is this? What does she mean?" Your father kept reading. I want you to know something. I heard everything you said that night at the hospital, every word. That's when Madison grabbed the letter from him. She scanned ahead, and Harper, her face went completely white. She said, and I'm quoting directly here, oh my God, she knows." I felt my chest tighten. Even though this was exactly what I'd planned, hearing it described felt surreal. Your mother started crying, real crying this time. She kept saying, "We were in shock. We didn't mean it." Your father sat very still. He didn't say anything for almost a full minute. What happened next? Madison finished reading the letter out loud. When she got to the part about the trust fund, about how you knew they'd hidden it from you for 10 years, your father stood up. He said, "This is slander. This is defamation. We can sue for this." I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. Of course he did. I let him finish, Lisa said, and I could hear the steel in her voice. Then I opened my laptop and showed them the documentation, bank statements, trust documents, property records showing they'd used your money to purchase Madison's house, your grandmother's letter that they never gave you, every single piece of evidence. And? Your father sat back down. He didn't say another word. What about the part where I'm alive? Lisa's voice softened. That was the final blow. Your mother asked, very quietly, "Where is she? Where is Harper?" I told them you'd recovered, that you'd been released from the hospital a week ago, that you were alive and well and had chosen not to inform them. Madison started yelling, Lisa continued. She said it wasn't fair that you were doing this to them. She said you were being cruel and manipulative. Your mother just kept crying and asking where you were. Your father, he asked if there was any way to contest the will. I told him everything was legal and ironclad. Every asset you own is now designated for the scholarship fund for foster children. Not a penny goes to them. I felt something loosen in my chest, something that had been tight and wound up for 28 years. How did it end? I asked. Your mother begged me to tell her where you were. She said she needed to explain, that I didn't understand the full story. I told her I understood perfectly. Then I asked them to leave. Did they? Eventually, your father tried one more time to threaten legal action. I reminded him that I have recorded evidence of their conversation at the hospital, the one where they decided to let you die. I told him that if he pursues any legal action against you, I will make sure that recording becomes public record. And he left. They all did. But Harper, there's one more thing you should know. What? Before they left, I played a video call on the conference room screen. You'd asked me not to be there in person, but you didn't say anything about video. I froze. What did you do? I set up a pre-recorded message, just 30 seconds. You, sitting in your new apartment, very much alive and well. You looked directly at the camera and said one sentence, "I just wanted you to know, I'm still here, but you're not in my life anymore." Then the screen went black. I sat down hard on a bench by the trail. I hadn't recorded any message. But then I realized Lisa must have filmed me during one of her visits to the hospital, or maybe she'd created a live call without me knowing. Either way, she'd given them something I couldn't have given myself, proof that I was alive, healthy, and done with them. Lisa, they needed to see your face, she said quietly. They needed to know this wasn't just lawyers and paperwork. They needed to see that you made this choice, consciously, deliberately, and that you're at peace with it. I felt tears running down my face, but I was smiling. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, Lisa said, because they're not going to let this go quietly. Your mother has already sent me 4 emails. Your father left 2 voicemails. And Madison tried to call your old phone number 17 times in the past hour. I changed my number. I know. But Harper, you need to be prepared. They're going to look for you. They're going to try to fix this, not because they love you, but because they can't accept that they lost. Let them look, I said. I'm not hiding. I'm just living my life. And if they find me, I'll tell them the same thing I said in that letter. I'm done. Over the next 2 weeks, the attempts to contact me escalated exactly as Lisa had predicted. My mother sent 47 emails to my old work address before someone finally told her I'd transferred to a different hospital system. She left voicemails on my old number until the mailbox was full. She sent messages through Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, every platform she could find me on. I blocked her on all of them. My father hired a private investigator. I know this because Lisa called to warn me that someone had been asking questions at my old apartment building in Denver. The PI eventually found my new address in Boulder, but by then I'd already informed my building management that I was not to receive any visitors from my family. They were added to a no trespass list. Madison tried a different approach. She posted on Facebook about a family tragedy and a misunderstanding that was tearing us apart. She made herself look like the victim, the loving sister whose adopted sibling had cruelly cut off all contact over a disagreement. She didn't mention the DNR. She didn't mention the trust fund. She didn't mention anything that would make her look bad. Her post got hundreds of sympathetic comments from people who had no idea what really happened. I saw it because a former co-worker sent me a screenshot with a message. I don't know what's going on, but I know you, and I know this isn't the whole story. I didn't respond to Madison's post. I didn't defend myself or set the record straight. Because the people who knew me, really knew me, didn't need an explanation. And the people who believed her Facebook post without question weren't people whose opinions mattered to me. But the worst attempt came 3 weeks after the meeting at Lisa's office. I was at work, my new job at Boulder Community Health, when the receptionist called my extension. "Harper? There's a woman here to see you. She says she's your mother." My blood went cold. "Tell her I'm not available." I did. She says she'll wait. I closed my eyes. "Call security. Tell them there's someone here who I've specifically asked not to have contact with me. Have them escort her out." There was a pause. "Are you sure?" "She seems really upset." "I'm sure." 10 minutes later, my supervisor knocked on my office door. "Hey, is everything okay? Security just escorted someone out who was asking for you." "It's fine," I said. "Just a family matter." She looked concerned but didn't push. "Okay, but if you need anything, time off, someone to talk to, just let me know." That evening, my mother sent me an email from a new address I hadn't blocked yet. The subject line was, "Please just let me explain." I almost deleted it without reading, but something made me open it. The email was long, rambling and desperate. She talked about how much she loved me, how the night at the hospital was the worst night of her life, how she'd been in shock and didn't mean what she said. She said she understood why I was hurt, but that cutting them off completely was extreme and unfair. She said Madison was suffering, that her kids kept asking why Aunt Harper didn't come to visit anymore. She said my father couldn't sleep, that he was consumed with guilt. She said they wanted to make it right, but they couldn't do that if I wouldn't talk to them. The email ended with, "You're our daughter, Harper. Nothing will ever change that. Please come home." I read it twice. Then I closed my laptop and went for a walk. The thing about that email, about all of their attempts to contact me, was that none of them actually acknowledged what they'd done. They said they were sorry I was hurt. They said they'd made a mistake. They said they wanted to explain. But none of them said, "We were wrong to sign that DNR. We were wrong to let you almost die. We were wrong to steal your inheritance. We were wrong to treat you like you didn't matter for 28 years. They wanted forgiveness without accountability. They wanted reconciliation without change. They wanted me back in their lives so they could feel better about themselves. not because they actually valued me. And I was done giving them what they wanted. That night, I sent one final email, not to my mother, but to Lisa. I need you to send them a cease and desist letter. No more emails, no more phone calls, no more showing up at my workplace. If they contact me again, I'll pursue legal action for harassment. Lisa responded within an hour. Already drafting it. It'll be sent tomorrow via certified mail. True to her word, the cease and desist letters were delivered by Friday, and after that, the messages stopped. But I knew it wasn't really over, because 2 months later, I got a notification from the county court. My father was suing me. The lawsuit claimed that I had illegally appropriated assets that rightfully belonged to the family estate. It claimed that the trust fund was community property, and that my grandmother's will had been improperly executed. It claimed that I was mentally unstable due to my brain injury, and that my decisions regarding my estate should be invalidated. I read the lawsuit in Lisa's office, my hands shaking with anger. "Can he actually do this?" I asked. "He can file it," Lisa said calmly. "But he won't win. Every document is legally sound. The trust was explicitly in your name. Your grandmother's will was properly executed and notarized. And your medical records show you made a full cognitive recovery. You're not mentally incompetent. So why is he doing this? Because he's hoping you'll settle. He's hoping that the stress of a lawsuit will make you give them something, anything, just to make it go away." I looked up at her. "I'm not settling." "Good, because I think it's time we played the card we've been holding." "What card?" Lisa opened a file and pulled out the USB drive that Nurse Jessica had given me. "The hospital recordings, audio and video of the night they signed the DNR, audio of their conversation in the hallway, medical records showing they chose not to authorize life-saving treatment." She leaned forward. "Harper, if your father wants to take this to court, we'll take it to court. And we'll bring evidence that shows exactly who he is and what he did. The judge will see it, the attorneys will see it, and if it goes public, everyone will see it." I thought about it for a long moment. Part of me didn't want to go to court. Part of me just wanted to be done with all of this. But another part of me, the part that had spent 28 years being silent, wanted the truth to come out. "Do it," I said. "File a countersuit and include everything." The mediation was scheduled for a Tuesday in late June. The court required it before the case could proceed to trial, one last attempt at settlement. I hadn't seen my family in person since Thanksgiving 2 years ago. I'd imagined this moment dozens of times, but nothing prepared me for walking into that conference room and seeing them sitting across the table. My father looked older. There were new lines around his eyes, grey streaking his hair. My mother looked smaller somehow, diminished. And Madison looked angry. Her jaw was tight, her arms crossed, her eyes fixed on me with something that looked like hatred. I sat down next to Lisa. The mediator, a woman in her 60s named Judge Carol Henderson, sat at the head of the table. "Thank you all for coming," she said. "I've reviewed the case files from both parties. This is an opportunity to resolve this matter without going to trial. I'd like to start by hearing from Mr. Morrison. You initiated this lawsuit. Can you explain what you're hoping to achieve?" My father cleared his throat. He launched into a prepared speech about family and misunderstandings and how I'd acted rashly after a traumatic injury. He talked about how the trust fund had been family money and how my grandmother would have wanted it to support everyone, not just me. He didn't mention the DNR. He didn't mention the hospital. He made it sound like I was a rebellious daughter who'd stolen from her loving family. When he finished, Judge Henderson turned to me. "Ms. Morrison, would you like to respond?" I looked at my father. then at my mother, then at Madison, and I started talking. "I'm not here to fight about money," I said. "I'm here because my father is trying to rewrite history, and I won't let him do that." I pulled out a folder and slid it across the table. "This is documentation from Swedish Medical Center. It shows that on March 17th, after I was in a near-fatal car accident, my parents were asked to authorize emergency surgery. Instead, my father signed a do not resuscitate order." My mother's face crumpled. My father stared at the papers like they might catch fire. I have audio recordings of the conversation they had in the hospital hallway that night, recordings where they discussed whether it was worth saving my life, where they called me not really their daughter, where they decided that letting me die might be for the best. Madison leaned forward. "That's taken out of context. You don't understand." "I understand perfectly," I interrupted, my voice steady. "I understand that when I needed you most, you walked away. And then, when you thought I was dead, you came back for the money." Judge Henderson held up a hand. "Let's keep this civil." "I am being civil," I said. "I'm just telling the truth." I turned back to my father. "You want to talk about what Grandma Ruth would have wanted. She left me a letter you never gave me. She said this money was for me, not for you, not for Madison, not for anyone else. She said I deserved to be seen and cherished. And if the people around me couldn't do that, I should use this money to find my own path." My father's lawyer started to object, but Judge Henderson silenced him with a look. "I spent 28 years trying to earn your love," I continued. "I was quiet. I was good. I never asked for too much, and it was never enough. You forgot my birthdays. You skipped my school plays. You didn't come to my graduation. You told your friends you forgot you even had another daughter." My mother sobbed. "Harper, please." "And then, when I was dying, you decided I wasn't worth saving." The room went completely silent. "So no," I said, my voice breaking just slightly. "I'm not giving you any money. I'm not reconciling with you. I'm not pretending this is a misunderstanding. You made your choice that night, and this is mine." I stood up. "I choose myself. I choose my freedom. I choose a life where I don't have to beg for a place at the table. And if you want to take that to trial, fine. But know that every single piece of evidence will become public record. Everyone will know exactly what you did." I looked at Lisa. "I'm done here." She stood with me. Judge Henderson looked at my father. "Mr. Morrison, I strongly suggest you consider withdrawing this lawsuit." My father stared at me for a long moment. Then, slowly, he nodded. "We'll withdraw it." "Good," the judge said. "This mediation is concluded." I walked out of that conference room with my head high. I didn't look back. I didn't wait to hear if they'd try to say anything else. I just walked out into the bright Colorado sunshine and kept going. Lisa caught up with me in the parking lot. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said, and I meant it. "I really am." 6 months have passed since that mediation. The lawsuit was officially withdrawn. The cease and desist order is still in effect, and I haven't heard from my family since. I'm sitting in my favourite coffee shop in Boulder right now, the one with the big windows that look out at the Flatirons. I come here most mornings before work. I order the same thing, a latte with oat milk and a blueberry muffin. The barista knows my name, not my old name, not Harper Morrison, daughter of Robert and Sharon. Just Harper, just me. My life is quiet now, smaller than it used to be maybe, but fuller. I have friends, real friends, who choose to be in my life and who I choose right back. I have a job I love, working with kids who are learning to walk again, learning to be strong again, learning that their bodies can heal even when they've been broken. I'm dating someone. His name is Marcus, and he's a high school teacher. He makes me laugh. He asks about my day and actually listens to the answer. He's met some of my friends, and we're taking things slow, but it's good. It's healthy. It's what I deserve. And the trust fund? I kept enough to pay off my student loans and to create a comfortable emergency fund. The rest went to the Scholarship Foundation, just like I'd planned. Last month, I got a letter from the first recipient, a girl named Sophia, who aged out of the foster system at 18 and is now studying to be a paediatric nurse. She wrote, "Thank you for believing in kids like me. Thank you for showing us we matter." I cried when I read that letter, because that's what I'd needed my whole life, someone to show me I mattered. And even though I couldn't give that to myself as a child, I could give it to someone else now. I still think about my family sometimes. I wonder if my mother still sends emails to the old address I never check. I wonder if my father regrets the lawsuit, or if he just regrets losing. I wonder if Madison ever told her kids the real reason Aunt Harper doesn't visit anymore. But I don't wonder enough to reach out. I don't wonder enough to change my mind. Because the truth is, I'm happy now. Really, genuinely happy. Not the kind of happiness that comes from finally getting the approval you've been chasing, but the kind that comes from realizing you don't need it anymore. I'm looking at you through the camera now, at the end of this story, and I want you to know something. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, if you've ever felt like you had to earn love that should have been freely given, if you've ever been made to feel like you're too much or not enough or just not quite right, you don't need to earn it. Love that has to be earned isn't really love. It's a transaction. And you deserve so much more than that. You don't need to forgive people who hurt you just because they're family. Forgiveness is for you, not for them. And sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is walk away. And you don't need to be small, quiet, or convenient to deserve a place in this world. You deserve to take up space. You deserve to be seen. You deserve to be cherished for exactly who you are. My story isn't about revenge. It's about choosing myself when no one else would. It's about realizing that sometimes the best thing you can do is step away from people who make you feel small and go find the ones who help you grow. Thank you for staying with me through this whole story. Thank you for listening. And if this resonates with you in any way, if you've lived any version of this story yourself, please leave a comment below. You're not alone in this, I promise. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message, someone who's still trying to earn love from people who will never give it, share this video with them. Sometimes the thing we need most is to know that someone else understands. Subscribe if you want to hear more stories like this. Stories about resilience, about boundaries, about finding yourself when you've spent so long trying to be what everyone else wanted. I'll be here telling these stories because we all deserve to know we're not alone. I'll see you in the next video. But before I go, I want to ask you something. Have you ever felt like you didn't belong in your own family? What would you do if you had to choose between family and yourself? Think about it, and remember, you always deserve to choose yourself.